Welcome back. I think our thought for the day is going to give you a hint of who our guest for the day is, and the thought goes like this. The thought is, valor is stability, not of legs and arms, but of courage and the soul, by Michel de Montaigne. On now to our guest of the day. We are very privileged to have in the studio with us the Director General of the CRPF, Shri Korai Durga Prasad ji. So welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gauraji.
When we think of the CRPF today, I think for all the role that the officers and men of this force are playing in our lives, I think somewhere valor, pride, and I think sheer patriotism fills all of us. How do you think has been the changing or the evolving role of what the CRPF is now expected to do?
Well, I think you have summed it up very well when you said valor and patriotism and commitment to the country. And that's what we are doing today everywhere. We today handle a variety of roles. In fact, the spectrum is too wide. We do the regular law and order duties in most places, but we are today the main counter-insurgency force of the country. So we are there in all the theaters, whether it is J&K or it is the left-wing extremist affected states, or in the Northeast or any other state. This is where that's one of our prime duties today. And majority of our forces, of my battalions and companies, are deployed in that work. But then that is not the only thing. Today we handle all religious festivals, most important ones, whether it is the Rath Yatra in Odisha or any of the Kumbhs in any of the part of the country, we are there. And the RAF, which is an integral part of CRP, handles all that. In addition, we today not only handle these, but we also handle the VIP security. Today a large number of Z+, Z, even Y category protectees are with us, and we take care of their protection. And then the normal law and order duties in most places, including, for example, when the late Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu was no more,
right,
and her position was taken out, the final position.
Right.
It was the CRPF which was, you could see all around the dirge which was carrying her body.
Right.
We were doing the required protection there. So that way today every area of work you find us there in all parts of this country, except maybe a few states like Goa, maybe Uttaranchal, and few union territories. Otherwise, whether it is the northeastern states or anywhere else, J&K and all the states, we are present today.
Right. And since the role and the duty is changing, the call of duty is also changing. So when we again think of a man in uniform, we say a man in uniform should be well trained with his weapon. That's a skill set.
Yes.
But the range of duties and the range of areas that the CRPF is engaged in, I think beyond the weapon, there is so much more that your men and officers need to look after and look into. And that sometimes is a huge task and a huge ask.
It's a huge challenge because when you send our boys to J&K, for example, the type of challenges that they have to face, the issues that they have to attend to are different, entirely different from the type of challenges that they have to face when they go to a left-wing extremist area.
Right.
So we need to really retrain them into what exactly they are expected to do, and retrain them not just with the weapon, as you rightly said, but in the mindset, the type of precautions to be taken, the type of approach they have to adopt, etc. So today we have created what we call pre-induction training centers in all parts of the country, so that the moment somebody is moved from, because every 3 years the force keeps moving.
Right.
And if I'm here in a theater for 3 years, then I move to the next theater. People do ask us, why don't you keep them in the same theater all the time? while it sounds very good, what it would entail is that somebody who is in a very difficult situation, continues to be in a very difficult situation all his life, he needs a break. We just cannot put him. Somebody who is in a LW theatre where every time you step out, you do not know whether there's going to be a blast.
Right.
That sort of attention, you can't keep him all through his life. So you need to rotate them so that they get that required respite. And if doesn't, to do that, we need to again train them for the next theatre and to the next theatre.
Because the scenario is completely
Absolutely different.
Right. So does it really help that if you have local people in the same area from that area, or is it good to have, say somebody from the south engaged in the northeast?
Any camp of CRP if you go today, you will find mini Bharat. You will have people from every part of the country in that particular camp.
Okay.
Whether it is a group center or a battalion or a company, you will find everybody. Only thing is the relaxation that we have is that yes, people would like to be nearer to their place, but if we increase the percentage beyond a certain level, it becomes almost like a regional force.
Right.
So we have not more than 50% from the local people in that area, in a particular area, and the rest will be from outside. Because if we have more than that, and somebody can say, why are you so harsh on people? Why don't you put people of the same area in their same area, so that they can reach their places faster? If that happens, then it becomes so localized that even man management becomes difficult. For example, say, let's take West Bengal. If all the Bengalis are there in West Bengal, on a puja day, and the puja time when it comes, everybody would like to take a break.
Right.
It's impossible to run the system at that time. And also, we don't want this to be reduced to that of almost like a local force. We would like CRP to retain its all India character.
There's a national flavor to it, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. So when we again talk of how we position people, some of them are in very, very difficult circumstances, and even the so-called softer options or the more peaceful places, they're not there for long. There are families behind them. Families need to keep moving. Very often, I think there are injuries also, so there's a morale that goes down, there's anger that builds in, and yet you need to be rational because you're dealing with local people. How does the CRPF keep the morale of its men stable?
One of the things that happens is that we train them, and right from the place of, from the point of their training, first training, they understand their responsibilities. The second that we try to do is that to the extent possible, we try to provide good housing for their families. But this is where the major challenge is, because our authorization of quarters for the families is 25% of the force strength. But today, unfortunately, we only have almost about 12.6% of the entire force. So we are now trying to build up more and more housing accommodations. So this year, right now, we are building about 10,000 houses. So our satisfaction level will go to 16%. But that's not sufficient. So we are trying to do something more. So one of the things that we have started doing is that let us start some hostels for students, for youngsters. So the father is, or the mother is deployed in Kashmir, and the rest of the family is deployed somewhere in Lucknow, or not even Lucknow, maybe in the interior village in UP. They would like to get good education facilities.
True.
So we're trying to open hostels in wherever our group centers are, so the children can at least be kept there and they can study, they can do well. In addition to this, the boys get their annual leave, whatever they get, whatever their entitlement is. We make sure that they get their full quota of their entitlement, spend time with their families and come back. And there's so many other things that we are doing on the welfare front, so that the families do not feel deprived. The men themselves do not feel deprived, and they know that the force is there to take care of them. But the force is so vast, you need to be on your toes all the time to make them feel that yes, our officers care for us, and that's a big challenge.
Right. And I think even if we look at it as an entity, the force is one entity, but it has so many mini worlds, because an officer or a Jawan has a wife, kids, family, parents, village. That's a completely different world. And for that Jawan, the CRPF is his everything. And for the CRPF, that's one Jawan over there, and there are so many. So I think, how do you see this balance? Because there'll be problems, there'll be issues, there'll be grievances. personal and professional. How is the grievance redressal system?
Now, there is a structured grievance redressal system within the force.
Okay.
We have, for example, every morning a roll call, and in the evening again they are all made to fall in and they are told their next day's functions. That's the time when all of them get a chance to express whatever problems they have. Now that happens at the company commander level.
Okay.
Now in addition to that, every Thursday there is a time given when they can come and represent, and this is a structured thing. But somebody wants to say something personal and doesn't want it to be in front of others,
right,
he can still come separately and do that.
Okay.
So what now we are trying to do is we are now developing a software which is using the technology today, that is everybody can represent their case through a WhatsApp, so through an application on the app on their cell phone.
Okay.
So that app, whether he wants a leave or wants a loan, an advance, a GPF loan, or whatever it is, he can apply through that.
Okay.
And if he doesn't get a response in the given, for each one of them there is a time frame given. Now if he doesn't get the response within the time frame, so what he can, automatically he doesn't have to do anything. That automatically escalates to the next level. And
Wonderful.
if that also nobody attends to it immediately, it goes to the next level.
So the matrix is built in.
The matrix is built in.
Okay.
So what happens is automatically it goes to a much higher level, and then action will be taken there and that. And God forbid if it comes up to the DG's level,
yes,
so which means that something is really, really wrong in that particular network and it needs to be addressed.
Okay.
And that will be done.
Right. So in terms of officers who lead the men, I think a lot of reorientation and also a sensitization to how do you handle people more than, I think that's the biggest skill to be a leader today.
Today, it's not the weapon handling, etc., that becomes a major component of training of officers. It's the manpower planning, the manpower management of situations outside. These are the ones, the soft skills, the so-called soft skills is the one which actually given a lot of importance.
Right.
And this is again and again harped by sending them for advanced trainings, mid-course trainings, pre-promotional trainings. In all these trainings, this is an important component, and that goes into shaping them.
Right.
And now what we are trying to do is that every company commander, that is an officer, when he is recruited at that level.
Mm-hmm.
So every company commander is now being trained to be a trainer of his own staff. He commands 100 people. These 100 boys or girls who are under his control or her control, they become their trainers as well.
Okay.
So that the sharpness of the men and the force personnel as well as the officers is always maintained at the highest level. So that integration also continuously happens.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that we are trying to make them aware of what's happening in the world outside and therefore also react appropriately to it. But for that,
mm-hmm,
the type of reaction response you would have seen in Srinagar, where there's so much of stone pelting happening, should have been much more different from what it is.
right,
Thousands of our boys were hurt, injured, some of them very critically injured. Right now today we have got one officer, Chetan Chita, who is undergoing treatment in the AIMS hospital.
okay,
In very critical condition. But still, the response after an incident is not one of vengeance or anything like that. It's one of understanding, saying that, okay, we have to contain a situation and not escalate a situation. And that is something that you'll find today across the board in CRP. Very clear that they would like to contain situations rather than escalate situations.
right. And I think that's a very powerful point, sir, because finally the man who's behind the shield or even behind the gun is a man, is a person.
Absolutely.
And prone to emotions. So how do we get emotional stability and the ability to see an incident as an incident de-linked from the individual reaction that you're going to show? And that is a very, very difficult thing to do.
No, we have to do that by only equipping him. When I say equipping him, it's not just equipping him with a weapon, but also things which will give him protection. So if we are speaking of full body armors or whatever other stuff that we have to give him, we have to equip him in such a way that he feels confident in dealing with the situation.
Right.
Now what happens is, when you are not confident that you can deal with the situation, you go to the next extreme step. So the entire effort all the time is to make sure that we deal with the situation by equipping them well. Like for this, for example, even the incidents in Srinagar, 103 companies were airlifted or rushed immediately to that place. And when they were sent, there were two challenges. One was to equip them with riot control equipment. We did that on a major scale, pulling everything from within the force and gave it to them. The second was the places where they were staying. We had to also protect them properly.
Okay.
Otherwise, they will become themselves targets. True. So that was another major challenge. But again, the entire force came together, worked hard. All branches, whether it is operations, provisioning, everybody, they stepped forward and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. So everybody putting their best. And then finally came the problem. Winter was approaching. These people went in sometime in August, July end and August, and winter was just fast approaching. Okay. We had to equip them, all of them, because people came from Chennai, people came from different places, and to expect them to be fully equipped was impossible. So we had to equip all of them to withstand the cold. And you have seen this time the snow was intense, and
yes, a very harsh winter.
Very harsh winter there.
Right. So
we had to equip all of them, and fortunately there are no complaints at all on these counts, either of security or of the equipment to protect against the cold,
right,
or the thing required, whatever was required to handle the crowds, that we could provide well. But this again means the entire force has to step forward and do something about it.
Right. I think we're going to go in for a short break now. So when we come back, we will want to learn from you that enforcing or ensuring that there is peace, but also building bridges for peace. I think CRPF does a lot of work with the community. We'd like you to share some of those. And how has your journey in uniform been, from a young cadet who came in and then, I mean, right now at the pinnacle of your career wearing this uniform, and what are some important life lessons that you might want to share with young officers? But right now, a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are still in conversation with the Director General of the CRPF, Shri Kodai Durga Prasad. So when we talk of peace building, community relationships, the CRPF is doing a lot of work on the ground, because actually the last mile and the foot on the ground is of the Jawan. Do share some with us.
Well, a civic action program is something in which we are extremely vibrant today. If you take the LW theatre, for example, where no development agency is able to really go in and do what the government wants to extend to the people, we are there with them.
Okay.
One of the small examples I can mention to you, I mean, providing them blankets, providing them utensils, items like cycles, etc., are one part of it. But instead of giving them fish, we said let's start giving them, teaching them how to fish.
Okay.
So one of the experiments that we have done, and it's going very well, is in Bihar, where the state government is giving chicks, birds, to the farmer, to the villagers at the rate of 25 per person.
Okay.
So we said, all right, let the villagers come together. So 20 of them, they get 200 birds. So when they got 200 birds, we said we'll build you sheds for them.
Okay.
So we built poultry sheds for them, and then the promise was that we'll take 50% of their produce straight away, and the balance 50% they can sell it, and if they think that it's difficult to sell it, that the balance 50 also we'll take from them.
So you ensure a market also?
Absolutely. So that being the case, instantly now today from 200 birds they've moved on to 400, and they want to now to move on to 800 birds. That sort of an example we would like to replicate elsewhere also. In Sukma, where it is generally considered their fortress, we have offered to the villagers, okay, we got a tractor with us, now I'll buy one equipment for farming also with it, you take it, I'll give you free. Even diesel I'll put in it, you use it. So instead of putting so many hours in the field, your job can be done faster. They were scared initially. First they were eager, then the Naxals came and threatened them. They were scared, but again we gave them assurance, they came and they used it. So then they see the benefit that it comes to them. But probably the biggest that we have done, the best that we have done for them, is we have opened hospitals, field hospitals in interior places where our doctors are seated, and then they are helping them, treating them. So when the Naxals threatened the villagers not to go to our hospitals, the villagers said after some time, no, whatever your threat is, we will go to them, because we are getting instant help, and that's saving our lives, not only our lives, the lives of our children. So Naxals ultimately had to tell them, okay, you go, but don't take anything else other than medicines.
Okay.
Don't get lured by them.
Right.
One other experiment that what we are doing is telemedicine. So what we are tied up with AIMS. So the treatment starts from here. So the doctor in AIMS hears whatever the symptoms and other things are, and there's a list of medicines already kept with us based on the normal medical requirements in those places. And so the doctor says, okay, so-and-so medicine which is at list number so-and-so, give him in this rate, morning one, evening one, etc. He notes down, and the pharmacist or our own man who is sitting there, constable, he takes it out and gives the medicines to them. And then again next week again he comes, and then it is again the doctor speaks to them and said.
So that's so wonderful. You have the best in the country reaching the furthest off in the country.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's something that is really doing pretty wonders. In fact, when we were for example, in Kashmir, the Chief Minister was suggesting to us, why don't you provide some lights in some of the interior places, solar lamps under your scheme. We said, yes ma'am, we'll do it, and we started doing it.
Okay.
We started a drug de-addiction center in Kashmir for again on the suggestion of the Chief Minister, that maybe some things can be done, and we have done that. And now that it's running so well, there's a demand from other places to start in other places as well. The latest that we have done is we conducted tournaments, football tournaments for the youth in Kashmir, because that's the one which we need to address. And after selection of the two best players from them, football players, we send them to Spain for playing in the league matches there with the help of an NGO called Football Next.
Wow.
And these are going to play in La Liga, considered one of the finest professional league in Spain. They'll be going there and playing with them. They have just been sent there to get familiar with them and come back, and again in June they'll go back for a regular full season.
Right.
The next what we are doing is that we are trying to identify a large number of about 20 footballers from there and send them for training in Spain for about a period of 2 years.
Right.
So at various levels we are trying to target various people and see to it that some of the programs that the government wants to reach out to people do reach them, in addition to some of the initiatives that we are taking on an innovative scale from ourselves.
Right. So do you think over the past number of years that such initiatives have come in, have gained momentum, there is a change in the way the uniformed personnel are seen in disturbed areas? Definitely.
In fact, yesterday I was in Chhattisgarh, in Sukma, and one of the officers from not from the police, from the other wings were there, and I was asking him, what is the general developments here now? So what he was saying was, initially few years back when the security forces came into these areas, they were looked at with some amount of suspicion. There was also a fear that the Naxals may take notice if they come to us. So that somehow those barriers are now broken.
Okay.
And now we see people responding to you much better, more friendly, and coming forward to interact with us, particularly with the CRPFs,
right,
with the CRP and the others.
Right. And do you think that with this connect being built more, to maintain law and order, intelligence gathering or int gathering has become better?
It definitely has.
Okay.
That's one of these what you call spin-offs of this.
Right.
The things we are going so much into road laying in Chhattisgarh interior areas, because we believe that communication is one of the most essential things, and communication is not just cell phone communication but the reach to the people. So the reach can only happen when the roads are there.
True.
If the roads are there, then the developmental agencies also can go in.
Absolutely.
So this has made us move so much in the interior areas that the big bridges are automatically getting built, albeit slow, but they are getting built.
Right. And they say that change is a slow and a painful process, and I think one step at a time.
Yeah.
You know. Coming back to your journey, sir, when did you decide that, I'm going to don the uniform and do something for the country?
After my graduation, I had to be very truthful in this. I was not really thinking of any of these. But one of my father's colleagues, he said that you are doing academically so good, why not you go into these services? Because by that time I got a job in Andhra Bank. That year they recruited all the university rank holders.
Okay.
So in that competition I got a job and joined. But he said, why don't you do this? So I applied for this and then got into it. But then initially I never thought I'll go to get police. So I was a bit disappointed and didn't join immediately.
Okay.
I was thinking that I may be getting something else, so I said no, I'm not so keen on that. But the day I knew that I was getting police, by that time the foundation course at Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy was over.
Okay.
But still I said okay, from the second phase onwards I'll join my training, and then joined immediately at Hyderabad, at Nagpur, and from Nagpur to Hyderabad and then into the force.
So many transfers even before actually getting...
Absolutely. In fact, before joining the bank, I started setting up an industry as well.
Okay.
And of course, fortunately, even today it's running, and it's running well. And it's good.
Any regrets of choosing this profession over...
Absolutely no. In fact, in between, after when I was Deputy Commissioner of Police in South Zone, again I took a sabbatical, went out, set up an industry. In those days a 50 crore project, and then came back to service.
Okay.
I cherish my period there as much as I cherish my period, every one of them here.
So what was it in the services that nourished you?
The challenges. Every day you have a different challenge. There's no 2 days are the same. When I had been in Electricity Board, I was in Commissioner of Police, I was in Intelligence, I was in Greyhounds, I was with the Prime Minister's office,
right.
Security, and various things. No two of them similar. So the jobs were different, jobs were challenging, and every day in each of the jobs was an entirely challenging day.
Okay. So as one rises in the services, and there is also, and you've been all across, you've worked with the bureaucrats, with the bureaucracy, directly with the people, you've been commissioner, so you've also worked intensely within the force, with officers at Ben. Do you think really that somewhere your decision making gets hampered by bureaucracy or what people are going to say, how you take your decisions, or is it your own conviction?
Conviction has to be there to go forward. There's no question of conviction not being there. But really speaking, yes, there are times when you feel that maybe the way we function should be slightly different,
okay,
so that things move faster, much faster. While I say that I had a very good stint in all the jobs that I have taken, and there are no regrets, no complaints, at the same time still I feel that had our systems been more forward looking and more streamlined, maybe would have achieved much more. Maybe the people can see, after all, ultimately what are we all here for? This is to serve the public, and this service to public could have been much better maybe if our systems are more streamlined.
Speedier. I think the turnaround time is something
Absolutely.
where, right, and since invariably you're handling a crisis or some decision which is affecting somebody's life in some way or the other, or somebody's safety, security or happiness, you would want to be in a hurry to close that and bring that forward, right? So in terms of training, and as one comes in as a young officer, as a probationer, gets trained, I think the context of young people coming in, the reasons are changing, the context is changing, and what is expected of them is also changing. How has this change influenced the quality of officers that we are getting?
Change has to be there, and it is there, because a very small example. When I was a young ASP, the senior officers who were by that time already IGs, etc., They used to say how they used to have time to play tennis and then had leisurely time with work, etc. By that time itself I used to feel that how did they find time for so much of that?
Right.
We have so much of workload here. And today when I look back and see the amount of workload that has increased is so enormous. Even if you look at, for example, CRP. The DG of CRP 20 years back was not probably handling these many battalions and this complex situation developing on a daily basis than what is happening here. Maybe 10 years down the line, it will be much more complex, much more complicated, much larger force. So this is going to happen everywhere. The challenge now for the younger officers coming in is to equip themselves with what is needed
Right.
to deal with these situations.
Right. And with the changing scenario, I think how we used to see that it's a laid-back life in the services and you get everything in time. There's not anymore.
No longer.
There's more stress, and the officers are rising to the challenge, equipping themselves, and I think that whole, as you said, turnaround time of how we shape ourselves and being mental mobility, I think that is so critical, and bringing up a cadre like that is very, very critical.
And that's probably one of the reasons why even today we go for our mid-career training programs, etc., that have been made compulsory, so that we need to get that little break, to look inwards a little bit, to reorient ourselves, and make sure that we are equal to the task.
Right. So in terms of the task again, when we talk of, when we see the khaki vardi, we see a policeman. It could be CRPF, it could be something, but we see a police person. And police public relations have always been mixed in different places, and I think there is improvement because sensitization is happening. But what is your vision for police public relationships?
Well, it should be, I think, less of formality and more of informality. The more you do that, the more it will be, because this I am saying out of my experience as Commissioner of Police.
Right.
The more informal you are, the more accessible you are, whether to your own personnel or to the public. That I think will really define how the relationship builds up. So I would really look at more informality coming in. And second one is that we need to also today make the best use of the social media, because today social media is mirroring a lot of things that are happening in the society. So if we are also alive to what's happening there, not just what's being, in the sense that we need to get a lot of feedback from different channels, and the channels will be restricted as you are going higher and higher. But the social media is one channel which is just open for everybody.
Everybody is a producer of a channel.
So you just
each one of us,
So if you are really alive to it, you will get a lot of information on which areas you need to look into, focus, and go forward.
So do you think the rate of modernization in terms of cybercrime, understanding cyber intelligence, are we keeping up?
Cybercrime is one area where we really need to do a lot more, because the developments are too fast.
Okay.
Too fast. And if we really don't catch up with it, we do ultimately may catch up with them, but by that time a lot of damage would be done. A lot of people would have been duped. A lot of people would have lost. So that's a major challenge that's coming up.
But do you think that there is lateral integration among the forces of information sharing, sharing best practices?
It's happening, but again, it needs to be much faster.
Okay.
It needs to be much faster. With the CCTNS program and others, it is happening, but not uniformly happening in all the states. So it needs to increase further.
Right. What would you say to young people wanting to join the uniformed services? Yes or no?
I definitely say yes, because for those who want an adventurous life, a good life, where you feel that on a daily basis you are contributing something, you are wiping the tear of somebody, and this is one job where you can really give an instant help, which no other probably job you can give. But this one job that you can have a satisfaction on a daily basis. Today, okay, so many people benefited from me. I helped them in their in their hour of need. And that's something which you can't get in any other job. That's the greatest satisfaction that you get in this job.
Right. So is there something called a work-life balance, or are you totally busy all the time, 24/7? I think I'm asking the wrong person, you know. Yeah. I should be asking Mrs. Durga Prasad this question.
Please don't,
Okay.
because you will get a reply in the negative.
You see, this is something which one is struggling with across corporate sectors. So you say things have changed. 20 years ago, when young people came into the workforce, we'd say, working 12 hours, 14 hours, understood. Now there are spaces
I know.
where even 8 hours and, 10 hours, you say, oh my God, I'm stressed. I have no work-life balance. So how do we see ownership?
See, in this service, in particular in the police, we have to be fair enough to say that the Jawans, for example, they get a break and get a holiday. But then if you really look at it, I will not be speaking of for all the jobs, but definitely in the police,
Right.
and particularly in the CAPF, particularly in CRPF, I can tell you that work-life balance is extremely difficult right from a constable upwards.
Okay.
Because the type of job they are in, the type of places that they are posted in, it makes it difficult for us. Even somebody gets a leave. For him, I was in Dhamtari yesterday, and when I asked them, I was having my dinner with my boys, and the boy seated by my side, I was asking him, what are your issues generally? He said, everything is fine, sir, except only thing is, I come from West Bengal, and for me to go home, thoda problem hota hai. I said, what's the problem? He said, I don't get the tickets in time for my train. I'm never sure that, I can reach up to Raipur, but beyond that, there is a question mark as to when the train will come and when the train will take me home. And while returning back also, I have the same issues. So these are certain uncertainties. Even if everything is fine with him, and this he finds is a problem. Because the places where they are posted in, and the type of job that they are in, they go for an operation, they go for operation for 4 days at a stretch, 5 days at a stretch, and come back. And whatever is required in those 5 days, and this is not only for some specialized contingents. Across the board, almost 80% of the force is doing this sort of a job. So that's where the stress comes in for the force. And when they are so stressed like that, it's not so fair on our part to think of our work-life balance.
That's true. So what advice would you give young officers?
One thing I will say is the job is so challenging, equip yourself well and take care of your men. Your personnel is no longer men now. We're recruiting ladies in such large numbers, young women in such large numbers that I'll have to say personnel. Take care of your personnel.
Right. So in terms of getting women into the force, how has that experience been for the CRPF?
CRPF was the first force to have raised a women battalion. And today we have got 6 women battalions in our midst. And for the first time now, we started experimenting. Earlier, women were going as an additional appendage to the battalion, to the companies where men are already posted there. Now we are saying no, women will go as an independent entities by themselves.
Okay.
So no need for any male contingent to be along with them. And deployed, they will operate independently, they will conduct operations independently 100% with no other assistance from outside. This is an experiment we are doing, and we are sure that this will work out well, because when I went and met them recently in Jharkhand, their morale was so high, they are rearing to go. And when I asked them how many times have you conducted the operation, they said, yes, we have done this operation, we have done that operation. I said, okay, then how did you go? He said, we went in the night and conducted the operation and came the next day evening. I said, what about your food, other requirements in daytime, etc. I said, oh, that's all right, we have managed it. We are as good as anybody else, we can do it, absolutely no issues. So that sort of confidence level when you see with them is fantastic.
Right, and that's truly inspiring. And you also have some of your women and some personnel from CRPF, and they are daredevil motorcycle riders.
Absolutely,
There's this wonderful
you must have seen them.
And they are fearless. I mean, I wouldn't, if they weren't wearing their helmets, you'd wonder. And we are so biased in our heads, okay, women can't do stunts, but they take everybody by surprise.
No, we only advise the youngsters not to copy them, saying that they are very good at their job. They are exceedingly good. In fact, our recent Bastaria battalion which we raised, 33 1/3% were women.
Okay.
So for the first time, in accordance with the government guidelines, for the first time we recruited 1/3 of the force that we are raising were women of personnel.
Oh, that's wonderful. And do you get good quality pool? The funnel, is it good enough to recruit?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wonderful.
They're really good, and more than when you see them training, oh, it's really good. It's really good.
Right. And they, I think, also have this capacity because then they become ambassadors for their community. So when they go back, they're role models.
You would have seen one young AC now who has gone to Chhattisgarh. The type of rapport she built with the villagers immediately.
Okay.
The ladies in the villages started, opening up to her what they would have hesitated to do with male officers, and it was pretty nice seeing that, right. Which has also been covered quite well in the media now.
Right. Before we say thank you, sir, just a few questions about, I think, what inspires you? What do you see are areas that we as a nation or as a people need to work on ourselves? Some life learnings?
A difficult question. What inspires me is when I see some people who have been there before me and have done such fantastic work, and each one of them is a role model to catch up to. Okay. And those officers I keep as my targets and do it. And then when you see, even among civilians, people with very limited resources, but doing something fantastic, which you would not expect them to be doing it, but they are doing it with absolutely no, rather concern for themselves, but for concern for the society in which they are. Those are things which really propel us to say, okay, if he's able to do so much, I with so much of resources at my command, why can't I do something more? Right. So that's something that keeps us propelled all the time.
Right, absolutely. Well, for us, so it's been a truly inspiring journey, this interview with you. Thank you so much for coming on to our show, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Gauraji. It's been wonderful coming here and sharing some of my thoughts with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.